If everyone can always rely on you, you should be insulted because that means people stopped seeing you as a human being with limits and started treating you like a resource. They see you as the backup plan. You're basically the emergency contact, the unpaid therapist, and the woman who's expected to clean up everyone's mess. It's crazy how women are praised for making themselves endlessly useful. But useful to who? Because the more available you become to everyone else, the less of yourself is left for you. Women are raised to believe that self-sacrifice is a virtue. We're encouraged to be dependable, supportive, and accommodating. You know, the bigger person, the strong one, the understanding one. And if someone needs you, drop everything, because a good woman never says no. But that's the lie, because the world doesn't reward unlimited access. It simply starts expecting it. People don't value what they never have to work for. They just get used to it. Think about it. The first time you save someone from the consequences of their choices, they're grateful. The 10th time, they expect it. The 50th time, they're annoyed if you hesitate to save them again. That's how entitlement works. Your self-sacrifice becomes someone else's expectation. This happens because human beings adapt insanely fast to convenience. People quickly adjust to whatever keeps benefiting them, especially when it costs them nothing. The moment your labor becomes predictable, it stops looking like generosity and it starts looking like your job. No one applauds what they believe they're entitled to receive. They only notice it when it disappears. And that's the trap too many women fall into. They become the problem solver who's always sacrificing, always rescuing, and always saying yes. Then they're shocked when their exhaustion is treated like an inconvenience because appreciation fades, but expectation doesn't. The people who need you the most often have the least respect for your time. Sometimes they're the ones who figured you'll never make them earn access to you. Think about who constantly interrupts your schedule. The ones who assume you'll drop everything for them. The ones who call without asking if you're available. The ones who volunteer your help without even asking you. These are the people who say things like, "I knew you'd do it. I knew I could count on you. I knew you'd understand." Most women hear those words as praise, but if you pay close attention, they're actually confessions. They're basically saying, "I knew I wouldn't have to respect your boundaries." They're not actually admiring you. They're just revealing an expectation. And expectation is where entitlement begins. Notice something. People rarely do this to the woman who says no. They don't even ask her half the time because they learned that she has limits. Her time belongs to her, and she isn't emotionally available on demand. Meanwhile, the woman who always says yes gets every request, every favor, every crisis, every last-minute inconvenience. And it's not because she's more appreciated. It's because she's the easiest woman to use. Sometimes the dependable woman is just the one everyone feels comfortable exploiting. Because reliability without boundaries eventually becomes public property. The woman who's always there slowly stops being treated like someone with needs of her own and starts being treated like everyone else's personal safety net. She carries everyone's emotional baggage. She talks people through their crises. Everyone cries on her shoulder, then wonders why she becomes distant when she's exhausted from carrying everyone else's burdens. Everyone comes to her for advice, but nobody notices she's running on empty. Everyone assumes she's fine because she made suffering look like strength. And the dangerous part is that the more capable you are, the less people check on you. The more dependable you become, the more people start believing your support is something they're entitled to. People grow surprisingly comfortable watching capable women sacrifice themselves, as long as it makes life easier for everyone else. Capability not only attracts responsibility, it attracts entitlement. And entitlement almost always shows up disguised as need. People don't necessarily respect sacrifice. They respect scarcity. Think about luxury brands. Why are they so desirable? Because you can't have unlimited access. They're selective, and they're difficult to obtain. Now compare that to the clearance bins. Products are always available, always accessible, and always discounted. I find it funny how women are encouraged to make themselves emotionally available 24/7 and then wonder why everyone treats them like they're on clearance. Availability lowers perceived value, not because your value actually changed, but because humans confuse access with worth all the time. The woman who answers every text immediately, who never misses a call, who always rearranges her schedule, who's always there to help everyone, eventually creates a dangerous illusion that her life isn't that busy, that her time isn't that valuable, that she doesn't have priorities. Because if you always have room for everyone else, people assume there isn't much happening in your life. Even if that's completely false, because boundaries communicate value, while availability communicates unlimited access. People pleasers think constantly saying yes creates closeness, but sometimes it creates consumption. And the difference is that closeness involves reciprocity, while consumption involves people constantly taking from you without returning the favor. One nourishes both people involved. The other drains one person until there's nothing left. Some relationships aren't really built on mutual care. They're built on one person constantly giving endless support, advice, and effort. And the moment you try to create some distance, they tell you that you've changed, that you're selfish, or that you've forgotten everything they've done for you. They rarely stop to ask whether they were expecting too much in the first place. Pay attention to people's reactions when you finally say no. That's where the truth lies. Healthy people adjust, while entitled people protest. Healthy people say, "Don't worry about it, I understand," while entitled people suddenly have a speech prepared. You've changed. I guess I can't ask you for anything anymore. I thought you cared. I would do it for you, but would they? Or do they just like believing they would? Because imaginary generosity is very cheap. Real generosity, on the other hand, costs time, energy, attention, and labor. Watch who becomes offended the moment your resources are no longer unlimited. That reaction tells you exactly what they valued. Clearly, they valued your usefulness, not you. Just because someone depends on you doesn't mean they truly care about you. Dependence isn't love, convenience isn't intimacy, and need isn't respect. Some people panic when you create boundaries, not because they're afraid of losing you, but because they're afraid of losing access to you. Those are two completely different losses, and confusing them is how people stay trapped in one-sided relationships. Women often carry this strange guilt where they think, if I don't help, who will? But let me ask you a different question. Why has everyone decided it has to be you? Why is your peace always the thing placed on the chopping block while everyone else's comfort is treated like an emergency? Women are conditioned to believe that refusing to give out their labor is cruelty. Meanwhile, the people receiving that labor rarely feel guilty about accepting it. What an interesting dynamic. One person feels guilty for saying no, while the other feels entitled to hearing yes. Respect isn't created by endless giving. It's created by standards, by having limits and consequences, and by unapologetically saying things like, "No, that doesn't work for me," without writing a 5-page apology afterwards. Women over-explain because we've been trained to believe boundaries require permission. They really don't. "I can't" is a complete sentence. "I'm unavailable" is a complete sentence. "No" is a complete sentence. And honestly, silence is often a complete sentence too. You don't owe everyone immediate access to you. You don't owe everyone your emotional bandwidth. You don't owe everyone your expertise. Your time, attention, and labor are very valuable, so start treating them that way. Imagine a bank approved every loan without checking anyone's finances. How long would it survive? Obviously, not very long. Yet women hand out emotional loans every single day, with no expectation they'll ever be repaid. Then wonder why they're emotionally bankrupt. Here's what happens when a woman starts protecting herself. The people who benefited from her lack of boundaries suddenly have a problem with them. She's called cold, difficult, intimidating, or selfish. The same people who praised her kindness start resenting her limits, because now she's harder to use. Stop giving unlimited access to people who mistake your generosity for an obligation. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Some people deserve to stay at a distance. Some people deserve to stay in your past. And some people never deserved access in the first place. Access should be earned, protected, and revoked the moment it becomes a liability. So, the next time someone proudly says, "I can always rely on you," don't smile just yet. Ask yourself a far more important question. Can I always rely on myself? Because if everyone has unrestricted access to your time, energy, labor, and attention, but you have to fight for a single piece of it, then you've built a life where everyone else gets the best of you while you survive on what's left. That's basically self-erasure disguised as being a good woman. If everyone can always rely on you, don't feel flattered. Ask yourself why so many adults have become comfortable treating your availability like it's their birthright. A woman who is always available isn't being respected. She's being consumed. Alright ladies, that is all for today's video. If you'd like to keep up with more of my content, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Reina Safo. One last thing, always remember to protect the woman you're becoming. I'll see you in the next one.